Of Locked On Islanders here. The Islanders are now halfway through their record-breaking road trip to start the season. We have a halfway report card plus a look at Anders Lee through his first games of the year after, of course, he comes back from season-ending surgery a year ago. How is the captain doing? We have that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Gil Martin. So glad that you could join us today and be part of the Locked On Islanders family. And thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. We've got a lot to talk about on today's show. First of all, one thing that a lot of Islander fans were concerned about entering this season: how would the captain, Anders Lee, do as he returned from season-ending surgery a year ago? I mean, injured in March, did not play in the rest of the regular season, did not play in the playoffs. We'll talk about how Anders Lee has looked through the first 7 games of the year for the Islanders. He's only played in 6, but we have a little report card on the captain and how he's doing so far. Also, the Islanders' 13-game road trip, they have reached roughly the halfway mark of that trip. We'll talk about how they're doing so far. And are they on course? I mean, this was a big challenge, this road trip. We talked a lot about it as the season was getting ready to start. How are the Islanders doing? We also have a big physical defenseman as our Islanders' birthday of the day, and a whole lot more coming up on today's show. If you've got something Islanders related on your mind, you have a question, a comment, maybe something you'd like us to talk about on the show, feel free to email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we talk about whatever it is that's on your mind. You could also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on Twitter at Ice Wars, NYRVSNYI, and we'll keep you up to date on all the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings. We'll start off talking a little bit about Anders Lee. And, you know, the Islanders have played games 2-2. Anders Lee missed one game with what was described as a stomach bug. So, you know, he's played in 6 games. And you look at the numbers, and they're not Anders Lee type numbers. I mean, through 6 games, Anders Lee, 1 goal, no assist. He's a +1 for penalty minutes, 9 hits in 6 games, and, 11 shots on goal, a little less than 2 shots on goal per game for Anders Lee so far. And if you were just to look at his numbers, say to yourself, oh boy, this isn't good. Anders Lee, who you're counting on for between 25 and, let's say, 35 goals a year over the course of an 82-game season, well, he's kind of on a pace for about 11 goals. I'm not worried. I'm not worried yet, and I'll tell you why. The style of play that we've seen from Anders Lee so far has been more or less typical Anders Lee hockey, and that, to me, is good. Anders Lee is going to the net. He is screening goaltenders. He is looking for those deflections and rebounds that he is so good at creating points off of. And he is really doing his thing on the ice. Now, there are a number of factors. Obviously, when you've been out of action as long as Anders Lee was, it's going to take some time for a player to come back and get their stamina back and feel that the knee is comfortable. And, it's one thing to say, yes, I can skate. It's another thing to say I can skate and take a hit. And then it's another thing to say I can skate, take a hit, play 20 minutes, come back with 1 day off or sometimes no days off and be back on the ice and do it again and still play hockey at a high level. So this is a process. And, it's an 82-game schedule. Anders Lee, yes, he's reunited with Matthew Barzal. But, that third spot on that first line, it's been a little bit of a revolving door. Started with Kyle Palmieri. He was off. You put Josh Bailey there at one point. But neither Palmieri nor Bailey had ever seen extensive ice time with Anders Lee and Matthew Barzal on that first line. So that is also a factor. But if I saw that Anders Lee was tentative, that he wasn't going to the net, that he wasn't playing a physical, confident game, that would have me concerned. The goals, I'm relatively certain, will come. And if this slow start, which is largely a result of the return from the injury, if it means he has 25 goals instead of 30 this year, but is ready to go and is healthy and is rounding into top form come April, May, and hopefully even June, when on what we hope is another long playoff run, then a slow start is just fine. The one thing that Islander fans have to keep in mind, the Anders Lee, who is solid in the NHL. Yeah, he's got 1 goal games, and that's nothing outstanding. But he also would be, I am not worried unless it's becoming 1 goal in 10 or 12 games. And if he's not getting his chances, I would like to see more than a hair under 2 shots on goal per game from Anders Lee. I think that he does need to shoot more and probably needs to get into, better positions to shoot more. But again, I think part of that has to do with the chemistry on that top line, and that will come with time, with repetition, with more games played with the third player on that first line. All of these things will indeed be factors, and I think we'll see Anders Lee, his numbers pick up as we get closer and further into this season. So not worried yet about Anders Lee. Not happy with the production at this point, but way too soon to really panic about this. And I think it'll come. I really, truly do. Anders Lee, reliable, and he's still providing this team with outstanding leadership as their captain. And that was something they did indeed miss in the playoffs last year. And having him back out there on the ice is a definite plus. We've got more to talk about. We're halfway through this 13-game road trip. In fact, we're a hair more than halfway through. And we'll talk about where the Islanders are, where they are in relation to where we hoped they would be, and how this team is doing. Plus, we'll look ahead at the second half of the road trip and sort of break it down for you. So we've got that, our Islanders' birthday of the day, and a whole lot more still to come on the Gone Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by DirecTV Stream. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a great and simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and it's a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. And again, I want to thank everybody for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. We're free, as always, and available on all platforms. So, road trip was not going to be, and we thought coming into this road trip that if the Islanders could get 13 points, that'd be fine. Points, that would be outstanding, and anything more than that is kind of gravy. Well, so far, through 7 games, Islanders have 8. They are right on schedule as to where this team more or less consider they've played so far have been a road. And add to the equation the fact that their starting goalie, the number one goalie, hasn't played a game. I think he will play in Montreal, which is their next game. I think you emerge from the great shape, because what does that mean? It means that you have 41 home games left and only 28 road games for the rest of the season. And eventually, you got games. Don't get me wrong; they're not give-me's. But that the others will have an advantage down the stretch and will have already sort of where you're not getting as much practice when you're on the road. Home, that's 5-day break, and the one game in 10 days right now helps this team get a little more practice time, and they get a little bit a little bit more at home and test. But so far, the last 5 games looking very, very good. And games left in this road trip, 100 in the remaining, NHL 500. You get 6 of those 6 games, okay, and then anything more than that, I think. And you look ahead. So 2 games on Canada. You go to Minnesota, and not a home game, but at least an airplane trip. Those things where you had both play not easy. Really not an easy. Montreal was, and then the 2 Florida Panthers are playing. A bit of beach Tampa Bay Lightning. The Islanders, yeah, they're 3-2-2 through games, 8 points in 7 games. And you look at the standings, and then that puts them 7th in the Metropolitan Division because everyone in this division is more or less off to a darn good start. But again, the Islanders haven't even played a home game yet. No other team in the division can say that. It's way too soon to scoreboard watch and to look at the standings day in and day out. You keep picking up points the way the Islanders have, and you'll be okay. And, you know, you look at what this team has done so far. It really is very much the same old story. The Islanders are 28th in the league in goals scored, near the bottom of the 32-team league. They're 4th in the league in goals allowed. And again, that's with one goalie playing all 7 games. Power play is middle of the road, and that's after scoring twice on Saturday in Nashville. They're 15th penalty kill in the top 10, and they're not taking a lot of penalties. So this team is who they are. And the fact of the matter is that goals for can go up once players like Anders Lee and Zach Parise get going a little bit more and start putting the puck in the net. Kyle Palmieri has yet to score a goal. That certainly can't remain the same, and neither is Jean-Gabriel Pageau. So we're kind of surprised at some of the players who are struggling offensively. I don't think they're going to stay 28th in goals scored by any stretch of the imagination. They'll get closer to somewhere between 15th and 20th, I think, by the time they get back home. But overall, as an Islander observer, fan, member of the media, I have to say, while it hasn't always been pretty hockey, what else is new? This is the Islanders. They don't necessarily pretty, and I'll put that in air quotes, hockey, but they play winning hockey. And you're halfway through this road trip. You really want to pick up, there are enough winnable games to be above NHL 500 at the end of this road trip. You're getting healthier again in goal. You're going to start getting players more comfortable in the system, and I think you're going to start seeing some better play. And then once you come home, it'll be an emotional moment, dramatic moment, historical moment for this hockey team. And I think we'll see more improvement from the Islanders once they start playing home games. We've got a lot more to discuss on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. We will have our Islanders birthday of the day and a whole lot more. All that still to come on the Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at BetOnline. We're back and better than ever. A new web interface for the start of the basketball season and more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. So yes, BetOnline will give you free money to bet on because you're a Locked On Islanders listener. From basketball, football, baseball postseason, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports, so head on over to BetOnline where the game starts. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And Ray early wish a very happy 40th day to former Islanders defenseman Matt Carkner. Carkner, drafted originally in the second round by the Canadiens back in 1999, had 4 solid defensive seasons with the Peterborough Peace of the Ontario League. Then went to play in the AHL before making his NHL debut with the San Jose Sharks in 2005-2006. Then went on to Ottawa, where he spent 4 seasons before joining the Islanders for the 2012-2013 and 2013-2014 seasons, then spent 2 more years in Bridgeport. Kartner, a big guy, 6'4", 235, fastest skater going, tough. He's physical, and he was, one of those guys where you needed someone moved out in front of your own goal. Matt Kartner will get the job done. He played 237 games in his NHL career, 4 goals, 27 points, 556 penalty minutes, add 14 playoff games in the NHL, including 4 with the Islanders, 1 goal, 3 points, and 1 of the 2 assists in his playoff career. We're going to go back and look at Matt Kartner's better games with the Islanders. This one at the Canadian Tire Center in Ottawa, where the Islanders are taking on the Sens. Evgeny Nabokov was the goalie for the Islanders. Robin Lehner, the goalie for the Senators in this one. It's November 1st, 2013, so literally 8 years and 1 day ago. And it was the Senators getting on the board first. Eric Condra getting them on the board, his first of the year from Derek Grant at 18:38 of the first period. And then 1 minute and 2 seconds later, Mika Zibanejad, his third from Erik Karlsson and Chris Phillips. Isles down 2-0 after the first period. But in the second period, the Islanders quickly tie it. John Tavares ties it for the Isles, his 5th from Thomas Vanek and Kyle Oposo at 9:07. And then just 28 seconds later, Matt Martin scores for the Isles. Assists to our Islanders' birthday of the day, Matt Kartner and Brock Nelson time of that one, 9:35. The next 2 goals, though, belonged to the Senators. Bobby Ryan gets his 7th from Patrick Wierciewicz and Erik Karlsson. And then at 14:47, Clark MacArthur pots his first of the year. Bobby Ryan and Kyle Turris with the assists. 4-2, Islanders trailing, not looking too good. But with a little more than 1.5 minutes left in the second period, Pierre-Marc Bouchard makes it a 1-goal game, hits his 2nd of the year. Matt Donovan and Kyle Oposo with the assists at 18:24. Islanders down 4-3 after 40. But in the third period, Franz Nielsen ties it just 3 minutes and 14 seconds into the game, into the period. Thomas Hickey and Pierre-Marc Bouchard with the assists. It's 4-4 at the end of regulation. Overtime fails to settle it. We go to a shootout. Basically, Nabokov stops Jason Spezza. Robin Lehner stops Thomas Vanek. Evgeny Nabokov then stops Milan Michalek. And then Franz Nielsen, the patented backhand, lifts one over Robin Lehner. Nabokov stops Bobby Ryan, and the Islanders win it in a shootout by a final score of 5-4. For Matt Kartner, our Islanders' birthday of the day, he had the assist. He was a +1. He had 4 shots on goal, which was second on the team, a third on the team, only behind Kyle Oposo and Pierre-Marc Bouchard. Evgeny Nabokov, 27 saves to earn the win, and the Islanders skate away with a 5-4 shootout win. So once again, want to wish a very happy day, and want to wish Matt Kartner all the best. He is our Islanders' birthday of day. Today is election day, so I just want to remind everyone to go out and vote. And those of you who are students and may have the day off, enjoy that. Tomorrow, back and our weekly farm report tomorrow. Plus, we will start toward the next part of homestand, and that, of course, includes Thursday's game in Montreal. Thanks again for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Host Scott Cullen leans on his decades of fantasy hockey insight and experience every day to help you be the expert of your fantasy league. It's free and available on all platforms. That does it for this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.